Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. The Hallowing, written by Scientific Theory. Vampires are real, not in the way that we imagine them, with fangs and blood and burning sun, but real nonetheless. It turns out that emotion is a genuine form of energy, but one only given form through sapience. It's a resource, and like all resources, demand can easily outstrip supply, which is where we come in. Isn't it funny that mammals took over the world after dinosaurs already had it in their scaly little grip? Hundreds of millions of organisms perfectly adapted for their world, and mammals took over after all they got creamed by a meteor. Just enough damage to wipe out the big ones, leaving a fucking shrew to take over the planet. Coincidence? Nah, not really. Now why would alien space vampires want mammals to succeed? Simple. Mammals were some of the first to invest in significant effort into caring for their young. Insects are practically robots, fish are weird, and reptiles could care less. Now, you might say, but what about our fishy friends dolphins? To which I say, you're a fucking idiot because dolphins are mammals too. A transition to live birth and slow reproductive cycles are really what did it. Evolutionary parents that invested more time into their progeny were more likely to see the progeny survive. Family units and highly functional cooperative groups formed, and social evolution began. Emotions are a consistent response to keeping groups of individuals functional. Individually, it's a simple system. You manage to eat? Boom! Hooray! That's great. Your mom just tried to eat your leg? Whoa, bad! Back off. It's easy. Things that help are good. Things that try and kill you are bad. Everything else is just kind of there. Social groups are where it gets interesting. Insects and fish schools don't count. Each individual automatically responds to a neighboring input, not like humans or apes. Even lower sentients like dogs have complex emotions comparatively. Love is obvious. Happiness, excitement, fear, even shame. Enthusiasm is the easiest way to see though. All the internal excitement bursting free. Cats too. Although they tend to lounge mainly in comfortable, complacent, and content, curiosity is also a staple along with cuddly. Warm and fuzzy words for warm and fuzzy creatures. Pets addressed. Humans are complex. You know the feeling you get when you're snug inside the middle of a booming downpour? What about the feeling when you recognize that girl you just walked by has a life and history as deep and complex as everything that you've ever known? The feeling of the warm sunshine on a cloudless day with nothing to do. There's so much more to us than love and happiness, comfort and curiosity, guilt and shame, hate and depression. Which brings me to my point. Out of all of those things, one of them just doesn't belong. See, what happened when our alien space vampires realized emotions could be bottled, transferred, and sold, is that they needed more emotions to be bottled, transferred, and sold. With enough money, you could experience the boundless ecstasy of an athlete scoring a winning goal, the deep satisfaction of a musician ending a concert to a standing ovation, even the sensational passion with which they played a double encore. All sitting at home in your moneyed mansion. You could feel the hope of a soldier returning home to their family, the electric guilty pleasure of an affair, and even the paralyzing fear of a would-be murder victim's daring escape. The only caveat is that the donor could only feel an echo of what was rightfully theirs. The strain of emotions stole people's lives, pieces at first, but more and more over time. Depression was what happens when they become greedy, when someone's happiness is particularly succulent. They don't just take a slice, they tap a sort of metaphysical funnel into their head. They take that and take it until there is nothing left but a vague fog of what should have been. In the beginning, it was just a poor, disconsolate few, emptied and lost in a way that we couldn't understand. We tried to help with chemistry and science, but nothing would ever stick. In time, the emptiness would creep back in and take them away. When it truly spread, nobody knew what to do. So many people dragged themselves out into the world, hanging on by the skin of their fingernails. We had no idea what was happening. All we could do was name it. The Hallowing. Empty people, living empty lives, struggling on an empty world. Suicides skyrocketed, but no one understood what was happening. How could the end of the world be nothing more than nothing? We refused to give in, even though we hated this grasping world, hated our inability to feel care. We struggled on, trudging forward, empty and bitter, hatefully consuming the things that used to bring us happiness, craving to feel one errant shiver of excitement like we had before. We couldn't even cry. The pit within us so disconnected from the emotions that once gave it meaning. We were being drained constantly, not just waiting for the moments that would make it unnoticeable. Our acceptance of depression as a normal phenomenon had signaled to those free-market bastards that it was time to expand. To everyone, all the time. Turns out, hate is the one thing that can't be funneled. Funny enough, anger can. It's a normal emotion. Anger can flare and fade and change. But hate is deep and bitter and poisonous. It didn't exist before us, before the Hallowing. Those that survived didn't do it because of hope. They did it because of hate. Because they hated everything and would be damned if it would finish them. Each step forward was an expression of hate for our inability to run, to jump, to laugh, and to mean it. We hated our inability, hated ourselves for what we had lost. Hated the fact that we could only hear echoes of love and hope that had once filled us on wings of pride and daring. We went to work as shells, hate whispering in our hearts. When we detected the massive energy flow off planet, we hated the fact that this knowledge had evaded us for so long. When we realized there was an alien ship, we hated the fact that they hadn't contacted us. When we realized what they were funneling, we hated that they had. Every hammer blow, every spitting weld in expression of an empty hate we feel. There is no warmth of rage or anger, just the bitter need to break them as they have broken us. The ships we build are expressions of our hate, and weapons we attach will reach out and speak it. They are not the vampires of which we spoke in legend with blood and fangs and burning sun. But we will banish them nonetheless. If I knew what it meant to hope, I would dream of being people again, of living after this. But I don't. All we feel is emptiness, gilded with hate. And our hate will be the cold and remorseless suns that burn them alive. End of story. Story number 2. The Wandering Race, written by Whiskey Lullaby. Of all the races of Valdrin, none could deny the humans were the most adventurous. Elves had long lives and magic, but tended to not stray from their palatial cities amongst nature. Dwarves were stout and strong, but the risk averse, preferring to fortify and grow their wealth for sure deals. Halflings are brave and have the devil's own luck, but prefer their comfortable homes and villages. Compared to all of them on traits alone, humans were lacking. Nowhere near as magical as the elves, with lives so short that even the oldest human that ever lived died bedridden more than 75 years before the oldest halfling felt the need for a cane. Nor could they compete with the genius or the skill of the dwarves, whose merchants and craftsmen often had more experience than any human could gain in their lifetime. However, this race of mayflies, where it felt every second was precious, came into prominence for one reason: their indomitable thirst for adventure. Where others sought comfort and stability, humans sought answers. Places overtaken by foul beasts and written off as lost by the mighty elves and proud dwarves were reclaimed by brave men and women. Human explorers cast aside superstition and fear, wandering near and far, making maps and building where others dare not. Now, the many kingdoms of man have decided to band together, not for war nor self-interest, but to write a new chapter in the saga of the supposedly lesser race. To build a ship that can withstand the rigors of travel beyond the treacherous coasts of our collective homeland and the monsters that dwell within. To continue in the footsteps of their ancestors who first braved the wilderness between the scattered races and walked the path that became the first roads. To explore and to meet new peoples, discover new places. In this endeavor, we of the so-called elder races should lend our aid and support, for in these modern ages, we seem to have lost something precious that let our venerated ancestors, those who walked among the gods, build our civilizations in the first place. Those who had bravery and fortitude to carve their way into the mountains and forests, to research and harness the mysterious forces of magic, and find the beautiful vistas and fertile land to build their homes upon. It is the old dwarves' firm belief that we should look to the humans as a gift from the gods, a reminder of what our people used to be and could be again. Dogovar, Dwarven Forge Master, to the Council of High Kings, circa 831st year of the Second Age. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Alithia, Barky, Fudic Yol, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Onholtz, White Band 420, Lord Asrakal, Arcadian, and Oakfield.